You are listening to Inspired Caring with Michelle Magner, episode number 144. Hello, welcome to Inspired Caring. I'm your host, Michelle Magner. If you are caring for an older family member, this is the podcast for you. Each week, I bring insight, tips, inspiration, and strategies to help you care for the people that you love without losing yourself along the way. Having cared for both of my grandmothers, I've helped manage everything from hospital stays, households full of belongings, to navigating senior living and end-of-life care. And I've worked in senior living as a result of that experience, serving my residents and their families as they've been on this journey too. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you enjoy this episode of Inspired Caring. Well, Erin, Drouin, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm very excited. We have known each other for a really long time, and you currently work for a fantastic organization called Dreamweaver Foundation, but you have a very extensive history of working and serving seniors and their families. So let's just go back to the beginning where it all began.
Yes, we first crossed paths in my experience in senior care. My longtime background was nonprofit, but a number of years ago, I started working for the Alzheimer's Association, which is kind of where I fell in love with serving seniors, right? It was this really chronically underserved population, but also folks that were facing a diagnosis that so many people really didn't understand, either in their family receiving a diagnosis or just understand how to navigate the intricacies coming with this multifaceted disease journey, right? Something that is going to impact your cognitive health, your physical health, your emotional, even spiritual health. And so I absolutely fell in love with that population. And then after a number of years of working at the Alzheimer's Association, I took this leap and decided that I wanted to really directly support the care of individuals living with Alzheimer's or dementia. So I took a job as an executive director in a local memory care community here in Omaha and served in that role for 4.5 years until joining the Dreamweaver team here in February of 2023. And it was super hard for me to leave my little family at the community that I was working at. I love them completely. I think that you kind of have to, because it's hard work. And if you don't absolutely love what you're doing, then you're probably not doing it for the right reasons, right? So we had received a really difficult cancer diagnosis in my own family. And I realized how much time I was spending away from my family for this other family, my work family. And so when the position opened at Dreamweaver, it was perfect. I mean, I've known about Dreamweaver Foundation for so many years because of the incredible work that they do in the community. I didn't ever dream that I would have the chance to join that team. But the timing was perfect. And so I came to Dreamweaver Foundation, like I said, in February of this year, 2023, working to support the mission that's been established here at this organization. So I'm so grateful for the opportunity. I miss my little memory care family a lot. I still go back and visit and help do education and some other things, but this is where my heart is.
Well, and you bring so much to the table because of your background. It's like the perfect fit in my estimation, because you have the family side, the resident side, and you have the big picture as well, like of the whole journey. So tell us what Dreamweaver Foundation does. What is it all about?
Yeah, so well, our mission ultimately is to bring joyful experiences and connection to older adults. So we do that through a few different programs that we deliver. First is our Dream program. We fulfill bucket list wishes for seniors that are living in low income and facing a terminally ill diagnosis. The organization, and that's why truly the organization was created or founded. In 2012, Ron and Jeannie Parson founded Dreamweaver Foundation. they had this opportunity to support a family member of their own that was facing a difficult diagnosis. And throughout that conversation, those conversations kind of planning and just looking at what the future was going to hold, they had asked this individual if there was something left on the list, right? Like something that they had not yet got to do. And they had shared that they wanted to visit Alaska. And Ron and Jeannie were able to make that trip work, but both of them realized that for so many others, it might not be a possibility, right? Whether it's financially restrictive or prohibitive or logistically prohibitive, that families just can't make those things always come to fruition, come true. So they founded Dreamweaver in hopes of supporting individuals that don't have the means necessary to fulfill those bucket list wishes. And then during COVID, Dreamweaver Foundation introduced a second program called Connecting Hope. And Connecting Hope was born of our realizations of that devastating impact of isolation, right? Especially on our seniors, even more so seniors that were living in care communities where all of a sudden family couldn't visit anymore, or they couldn't go home to be with families. So Connecting Hope offers seniors in that same demographic, 55 and above, living in low income and with a life-limiting illness, a GrandPad tablet, completely free of charge to them. And we now offer those tablets in all 50 states, which is super. It offers that idea of connection. You know, there were so many staggering statistics that came out throughout the entirety of the pandemic. You know, in 2023, 1 in 3 seniors age 55 and above reported being isolated or lonely. That's heartbreaking. So if we have a chance to connect those people to others that they love, that is the reason the program is established today.
Ron and Jeannie are incredible people. They have such big and generous hearts. The building that I worked in, a skilled nursing facility in the Omaha area, I had the privilege of being with 2 residents who had their dreams made true by Dreamweaver. And the trip to Alaska, that is a huge deal. Sometimes the dream is relatively simple. For one of our residents, they wanted to go to the Speedway because their grandson raced cars. And the other one wanted to go to the Garth Brooks concert. And what I thought was so special about both of those experiences is they don't just like get the resident a ride. It's like this whole VIP package that they put together, the organization put together for the residents. Can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, there's so much they do. Our dream team tries so very hard to personalize what that experience is, because you're exactly right, Michelle. It's not just a ride, right? It's an experience. We're trying to create a memory that we cherish for a lifetime, right? Whether it's that individual that we're actually granting the dream for, or those in their care circle. You know, it's also this opportunity to create those moments of joy, that beacon of hope, where we're facing this difficult diagnosis, but it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom, you know? And you're exactly right too. I think that the generation, they don't want a lot. If we were to ask my kids what their bucket list wish was, it's going to be something big and grandiose, but the generation of folks that we serve, that's not what they want. We do a ton of birthday parties. The first dream that I was able to take my 9-year-old daughter to was over the summer, and it was for a gentleman named Francis. And Francis wanted to play the organ for his family one more time. That's what he wanted to do. So the dream girls got him a whole new outfit so that he would look dapper and amazing when he showed up to play the organ. And we went to the First Plymouth in Lincoln, and he took a limo there, and all of his family and friends were there, and he played for them. You know, they were able to listen to his concert, and then we catered a meal after so that folks could hang around and interact with Francis. And it was really powerful. It was this, you know, this opportunity to create, like I said, this memory for this family that they will hang on to forever. Because, and Michelle, you know this better than many. Sometimes when you are caring for somebody that is living with a terminal diagnosis, the memories that you have can become clouded at the end, right? Because you see the things that you don't necessarily want to see. You see their physical decline. You see, that they kind of lose pieces of themselves along the way. So if we have this opportunity to create this really super positive, heartfelt experience in the final stages of somebody's life, it's a gift to them, but it's a gift to the people around them as well. And that's what it was for Frances. And I loved being able to take my daughter. She'd never heard an organ. We walked in and she was like, that is the biggest piano I have ever seen, but it's beautiful. Just a really incredible experience. So we do more dreams like that, I think, than the trips to Alaska. And we do get those. We did the ride in the race car with Mario Andretti, and we've done, like you said, tons of concerts and backstage passes. And it's those little things that make this huge difference. We did a dream this summer for a woman named Benita, and she just wanted to have a little gathering with her family. And what she didn't know was that the girls worked to coordinate her brother coming, who she had not seen in over 30 years. And it was beautiful, like just being able to give them that chance to connect. She passed away, and Benita has since passed away, but we had a professional photographer there, and they took all these beautiful pictures of the family getting together. And after we do a dream, we always kind of recap with the dreamer so that we can put together a photo album for them. And one of our employees, Shelby, had gone out to meet with Benita after, and Benita had looked at her and said, they had looked through the book and kind of talked about the day. And Benita said, this is a memory that I will take with me to heaven. So, just to know that you have that impact in the final chapter of somebody's life is wonderful.
That's so powerful. I think people, the opportunity to see her sibling is so meaningful, because I think people start to lose track of that a little bit, especially when someone moves to senior living. If two people are in senior living and logistics of transportation, that is really a gift to give someone, is to have the opportunity to see their sibling.
Yeah, absolutely. Just family. We do lots of 100th birthdays, and that's a celebration, right? I mean, it should be. And I do think that if there are things that have been born out of what we faced throughout the pandemic, it is that I think that it is easier to remind yourself not to take those moments for granted, right? Even as family that's just loving folks, even if they're not facing a terminal diagnosis, like you have those moments, and it is better to take them than to lose them. And that's what we try to advocate for all the time. Even before I came to Dreamweaver, when I was working at the memory care community, there would be times where somebody living with an Alzheimer's diagnosis would say that they wanted to do XYZ, and the family right away would say, we can't do that. And I'd be like, we can't. Why? Like, help me understand why we can't. Is it logistics? Because I'll help figure it out. Is it why can't we do that? Because when somebody's living with Alzheimer's or dementia, the experience might be different, but it doesn't make it less important, right? And I think to be able to guide those families through that process so that it's a matter of maybe amending what something looks like, but we don't take it away completely. We just figure out a way to make it work. We meet that person where they are. So, it comes with some amount of education too, right? Of allowing those families to understand that caring for that person does look different, but that it can still be fulfilling for that individual that's living with a diagnosis.
What's coming to mind is my father-in-law had received a terminal cancer diagnosis, and we were about 2.5 years into treatments, and we just got to the point where the doctor said we really exhausted all of the options. And so he was living in assisted living, and was 74, living in assisted living, and was started receiving hospice services. And my husband and his brother asked him if he wanted to take a road trip to Colorado. And his first thought was, well, I can't. because I have terminal cancer and I'm receiving hospice services. And our response was, absolutely, you can.
Mhm.
That is totally an option. And so we have these great pictures. I'm getting all emotional, but we have these great pictures of them before they like took off
Mhm.
on their outing to
Yeah.
Colorado. And, you know, these men, they didn't take a single picture on the trip. But I have pictures of them that I took before they pulled away from the building. And such a special memory.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think you said it so well, Michelle, like even his reaction was to say, well, I can't do that because I have this diagnosis. And I've tried to encourage families for years to just keep in mind that a diagnosis is just that, right? It's a diagnosis. It isn't who we are. It doesn't, um, you know, like my sense of self and my, like that whole idea of human being and spirit doesn't change when you get a diagnosis. It is a diagnosis, but it isn't who you are or what you are. And I think helping families know and recognize and understand that can be, a really powerful transitional experience for those individuals that are supporting somebody that is living with some sort of life limiting diagnosis. So,
Well, and it's not a secret that often when people are to the point where they are living in a communal living situation, we have potentially multiple comorbidities or diagnoses happening, and we are still individuals with individual preferences and desires, and we still need purpose. And
mhm,
I really think it's important for people to have things to look forward to.
mhm,
And I think that's a huge part of what you are creating
yeah,
is like this excitement and murmur
yeah.
of something to look forward to.
One of the dreams that we did for actually a gentleman that was living at the community that you used to work at,
Mhm.
Sully, he wanted to go to a Husker game and he hadn't, they had season tickets when he was younger, but he hadn't been in a number of years. And the game was in November because he was a veteran and we were gonna send him to the veterans game. And in the weeks before, what had been communicated to our team is that they did not think he was going to be able to make it to the game. His health was declining. They were really worried about whether or not he'd be able to make it. And so the staff decided that they were going to just do whatever they could to get him there. So they would go multiple times a week and bring him like a part of his dream. So, they had got him all Husker swag, everything. They even had a Husker jersey made with the Sully on the back. So they were bringing him an item every few weeks, and it was so motivating for him that not only did he make it to the game, they honored him up on the screen for the veteran game, and but he actually, after the game, he took his book everywhere, his book of his dream that day, and was a huge kind of advocate for Dreamweaver Foundation, but actually became president of the resident council there after. So
Mhm.
it really did, they didn't think he was going to make it. And then that idea of hope was so motivating to him that he not only was able to attend the game, but was the president of the resident council after. It is an incredible reminder of the power of hope and happiness, right?
Right.
Of creating that amount of joy that can keep us going. So I love that is how that unfolded for Sully.
Well, and I think just for families listening, people listening, having the inspiration, like what is that for your loved one? What little things could you pull together to create a memorable experience that could potentially involve multiple family members or the community or past organizations that they were affiliated with? Just, it doesn't take too much. Um, Time or money wise to create that sense of purpose and hope for somebody.
Yep, absolutely. And, one of the other interesting things is that this year, for the first time, we have a small third program that we do called Making Spirits Bright. Michelle, you joined us for it this year, and we deliver about 5,000 handwritten cards throughout the holidays to seniors, originally throughout our community, but now we actually do kind of send them all over in support of our GrandPad users and other things. So, but this year we actually invited some seniors in assisted living communities to help us write those cards, and it was purposeful for them, right? It gave them an opportunity to recognize the fortune that they do have, that they were able to participate in the card writing process when others that they were writing cards to maybe couldn't have, or things like that. But it was a really powerful component of the program this year, because it connected that generation, but they were able to serve each other, right? To serve others. And so finding ways, just like you said, to create those opportunities to elicit or offer purposeful work or purposeful meaning in somebody's life is important. And I do think that as it gets more important as we get older, you're not working anymore, you're not raising kiddos, and it is hard to be reminded of exactly what purpose you serve. And so to find those little ways to offer that purpose can make all the difference in the world for caregivers, for families that are finding ways to connect with that person that they love.
Absolutely. So any little thing that someone feels up for doing. I remember I worked in a memory care, and we were chopping something or cutting something, and someone from corporate happened to be in the building at the time and said, "These women have been cutting things their whole lives. Give them the knives."
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, up to someone's discretion of, where people are at, but it was such an impactful moment, because it was on the very front end of my career in senior living, and we were just worried, like, we don't want anybody to get hurt. But so just being open to the idea that there's some muscle memory also happening for people that is able to still be leveraged.
Yep.
Will you share a little bit about the GrandPads? Tell me more, all 50 states. Tell me more about that, and what is the content on there, and what do people do with those?
Yeah. So actually, funny enough, my first experience with GrandPad was before I started here at Dreamweaver Foundation. We had a very sweet little lady that lived in the memory care community that I worked in, and she, when she first moved in, she had her cell phone, and she would call the police all the time because she needed to go home. She was not where she was supposed to be, and we did not want to remove her ability to be able to call her family, but then she would not recall that she had called the police, and by the time they showed up, it was even more stressful for her. So we wanted to be able to eliminate that component of outgoing calls without without her not being able to call her family. So in doing some research, her daughter and I had found GrandPad. And the reason that it was appealing for memory care, somebody that was living in memory care with a cognitive deficit, is that there's cell functionality. GrandPad can make and receive calls, but you can restrict it so that there is not a keypad on the GrandPad, right? That they can just call people that they select via picture or the name or however you want to set it up. So we knew that would work for this sweet little lady. And it did. It gave her a chance to still be able to call her family, have that semblance of independence, right? Because that's part of why transitioning to assisted living community is difficult. We're losing so much of the independence that we once had. And so she was like this GrandPad super user, right? Like she was making calls, you can send little text messages back and forth to the people, you can share pictures, like all the things. There's also games on there. You can listen to the radio. And it's also manned by support staff, like individual support staff. So if there were to be something that happened and she hit get help, it would connect her with a live person immediately. And she used to hit that button a lot, and they would just call the building and say like, hey, she's down in her room. She's saying that she needs help right away. And it would always make me smile because I'd be like, oh, she doesn't need help, but we'll go check,
But I'm on my way.
Right. So
Yeah.
I would go down and she'd be like, honey, my lights are off. Or, like there was never an emergency, but she knew that if she hit that button, like whatever needed to happen for her would happen. So I loved the GrandPad working in memory care because it did foster some amount of independence without putting them at risk of it's completely closed network. So they can't get scam calls. They can't, nothing like that. It's so much safer for a senior to be able to use, but they can play, it gives intergenerations an opportunity to connect. Sometimes when we had families visit, younger kiddos, maybe teenage kiddos didn't really know how to connect with that person living with Alzheimer's or dementia. They don't know what to say. They don't know what not to say. They don't know what to expect. So I also love that the GrandPad, if that teenage kiddo has the app on their phone, they can log on and play a game with grandma through the GrandPad, which is super cool. And we just started this year doing some programming on the GrandPad as well. So in the spring, we launched a 4-week exercise series called Workout with Will, and it was super fun. We had users that logged on every week to do their chair exercises and yoga. And then we would chat for a few minutes after. And, we had Dorothy used to call in from just outside Cleveland, Ohio, and she would always tell us that she knew she needed to get her body moving. That's what she would tell us, but she just didn't know how. So like offering guidance and, some really basic kind of tutorials about things that you could still do to stay active in your home. And then this fall we did a Folgers with Friends, a virtual coffee connection.
My gosh.
And it was so much fun. We had some folks that joined us for the full 4 weeks and others that just kind of popped in and out. But at the end of that last series that just ended the first week of November, we had one of the women that joined us each week. Her name is Erin. She said, please do this again. This is the only thing that I've looked forward to for the last 4 weeks. She said, everything on the news is so sad. Like the world is not a happy place today, but here it's happy, So that's what we want the connection to be able to offer, right? Like this little window into a world that feels safe and comfortable and enjoyable, whether it's connecting virtually with family across the street or across the globe, it doesn't matter. We cover all of the costs associated with those annual subscriptions, anything from the hardware to the actual subscription cost, which is about $800 annually. So we have 650 subscriptions that we maintain today, as well as 100 in the Ukraine.
Oh my gosh.
So
they're all over the US. Are they primarily in senior living community environments, or do people have these at home?
It is kind of a mix, I would say. So the majority of the dreams that we do come from within senior care communities. That's where a lot of the referrals come from, whether it's social workers or hospice providers or whatever. But I would say that GrandPad is probably 50-50, Michelle. Like some of them are just at home, but super isolated and don't have another way to connect. A lot of our users don't even own a cell phone. So their GrandPad is literally the only thing that they have to connect to other folks in their circle, in their networks. A lot more of those referrals come from GrandPad. Actually, if somebody calls in to try and get a GrandPad and they realize they can't afford it, they'll refer them over to us. And then they apply through Dreamweaver Foundation.
So it's its own program that people independently can subscribe to.
Yeah.
And you just facilitate and provide an avenue for people who would otherwise not be able to afford it.
Yep, that's exactly right. So
Okay.
GrandPad is a company out of Minnesota, and they have over 1 million GrandPads all across the world now. Yeah,
Wow.
and they are senior specific. So like I had shared, they are closed network, which is really appealing for families when they know that seniors can become such a huge target for,
Mhm.
online scamming and things like that. But it's also very, very user friendly. The functionality of it, the buttons are big and the screen is very sensitive so that it can pick up what, fingers are doing.
Mhm.
And a lot of there's buttons on there that have like old time radio. So a lot of the programs are very catered to an aging demographic. There's a mood button where they can just listen to, maybe it's a running river or things like that, just kind of offer some peace and tranquility. And there's the photo album so they can share and receive photos with anybody that has the app on their phone. But yeah, just all kinds of things that allow that aging adult to feel more connected than what they would be otherwise.
Connected, independent, something to look forward to, have some hope, have some levity.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So how would people go about applying for either a dream for somebody or the GrandPad? Like, what would that process look like?
Yeah. So the applications are online. You would just go to our website, dreamweaver.org, DREAMWEAVER.org. And if you go under the programs tab, you can apply for either of the programs or you can apply for both. It is 7 questions. It is super, super easy. You can either nominate on your own behalf or as a nominator on behalf of someone else. And then if it is the Connecting Hope program, our program manager, Brenna, will reach out. Usually her turnaround time is like 24 to 48 hours and touch base with them. That program is on a wait list right now. So she'll talk to that individual about what that looks like. And then our dream program is managed by 2 full-time staff, Kelly and Shelby. So one of them would reach out to the nominator again within 24 to 48 hours and touch base with them about the dreamer. Make sure that they meet the qualifications or criteria. And then after that, they go out and do a dream interview. So they actually meet with that dreamer to find out, hear from kind of the horse's mouth, right? About like what they actually want to do. And I do think that is an important part. Sometimes we assume that we know what that person wants, but it can end up being something totally different. And we do want that experience to belong to the dreamer, right? We want it to be theirs. We want others in their circle to be participatory and to enjoy it and to love it. But we want it to be what their wish is. So they spend time with that, each individual dreamer working through exactly what that's going to look like. If they're doing a 100th birthday party, but we know, in meeting with them that they also love dinosaurs or whatever, then we'll make sure that when we organize that 100th birthday, that's the theme. Or, we did a 100th birthday when I first started for a woman named Inez, and Inez wanted a taco bar. Like in the meeting with her, she had shared like, that's one of the things that I love, and they never serve it here, whatever it is. So being able to really understand the thing that is important to that person, even if it is as simple as just knowing that they would love to be able to eat at a taco bar that they never have at the senior care community that she lives at,
Right.
So,
well, yeah. And so what I'm hearing is like, there's this big picture, but then there's all these little things that you all are picking up on that you can totally weave in to this bigger dream that you're working on.
Yep, absolutely. That's always our hope, that we're going to be able to, even if it is just that, I know over the summer, one of the girls spent like weeks and weeks researching orthotic shoes because that was part of what the woman had shared, is that for years she had worn these incredibly uncomfortable shoes and she was looking forward to the birthday, but really had like genuine anxiety about being uncomfortable during the birthday. And she spent a super long time making sure that she had comfortable shoes so that she didn't have to worry about being uncomfortable when the day should be just happy,
Right.
So.
Oh my gosh. I just love what you're doing in the world. That's so wonderful.
We love what we do too. One of the things that was shared with me when I first started is that less than 3% of the nation's registered nonprofits serve seniors. Less than 3%. That makes me sad. But I mean, I love spending time with aging adults. We joke in my family because my sister is a pediatric nurse practitioner and she's always like, I love, she loves kids. She doesn't love being around seniors. And I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with you. I like my own kids. I don't really love anybody else's kids, but I could spend every single day with aging adults. So, knowing that we hold this really small subset of how people decide to be charitable in the country, less than 3%, like that makes me want to advocate even more and even harder, So.
Yes. Yes. Well, I have the idea for a nonprofit that we should talk about too. So, because I think everybody deserves beautiful headshots.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that.
Yeah.
Well, I am grateful to have little tiny thin sliced parts of what Dreamweaver Foundation does. And I'm very grateful that you took the time to come on today and share with us all about it. Any parting words for family members? You have seen every angle that we are experiencing for yourself, professionally, personally. Just any final thoughts for people?
Yeah, I think that if there's one thing that I wish every family could hear, especially families that are facing a difficult diagnosis, is to advocate and fight for those moments of joy. Again, that they are going to look different, but they don't have to be non-existent. And I think that it is okay to laugh a lot. Michelle knows that the diagnosis of my own family was difficult, but we laugh a lot about kind of every stage of what this has looked like, from traveling for treatments to like whatever it is, because it is so much easier and so much better than crying. And there is a time to cry. Absolutely. Families have to know that too, that there's time and that's okay. But there are moments of joy. They look different and you just got to find them. So.
It's beautiful. Find them and create them.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
What I know for sure is that things are going fine until they're not. Everyone wants to stay in their home for as long as possible. And then there's a fall or a hospital stay or clear signs of dementia or a diagnosis, and remaining at home becomes questionable or potentially impossible. It is super important that you are informed about what assisted living and nursing home care can offer and understand how to choose the one that will best fit the needs of your family. I know from personal and professional experience what objections are going to come up and how to navigate those conversations. You love your family member and you are doing a great job. It just feels like the situation is fragile. You're waiting for the other shoe to drop and you don't know what you don't know. Illuminating Senior Living answers all of your questions and walks you through step by step each common objection and frequently asked question. This course will save you so much time and heartache. Imagine knowing exactly when it's time to move and ensuring the care and safety of your family member. Imagine knowing what specifically to be looking for in a care community and how to have the conversations about moving. Illuminating Senior Living gives you the roadmap so you're prepared. Click the link in the show notes, Illuminating Senior Living, to secure your video course today.